I like your lashes.
Thank you.
They're cute.
They
So
are
I was
my
gonna
favorite.
ask, like, does it burn getting them put on?
Um, it depends on how they tape. So, because they have to tape the bottom lashes down while they do it, and your eyes are closed the entire time. But sometimes the tape, and you can tell them, and they'll readjust where the tape's at. But sometimes the tape will be in a certain spot that kind of like dries out your eyes a little bit. But otherwise, your eyes are closed the entire time.
Do you ever forget that there's tape there and try to open your eyes?
The first couple times I ever did it, yeah, I tried to open my eyes the entire time, and they're like, keep it closed, keep it closed, keep it closed. But it's not bad at all. Like, it's weird. And it doesn't ruin your lashes. I was going to tell you that. It doesn't ruin your lashes because your lashes grow back in cycles.
Oh, they
And
do?
so they grow and they fall out and they grow and they fall out and they grow and they fall out. And everyone has,
Hmm.
and it's like 3 or 4 weeks that your lashes are in a cycle. Some are
Yeah.
faster and some are longer, but
Interesting.
so like your lashes grow back. And there may be situations where they don't, depending on like medications you're taking or something like that can affect how
Hmm.
your lashes grow back from what I've learned.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it was super weird. I was like, I've never known so
Yeah.
much about eyelashes before.
Right.
It's
Wait, now
really
tell me
weird.
about eyebrows. Like, why does that grow so freaking fast?
Yeah, can you just like get them gone? Because like I hate
Yeah.
eyebrows. Mostly because I don't know how to do it. And I make it
I
up every
just,
time. I just fill in
yeah,
because they're my
that's what I
natural
do.
shape. I don't
Yeah,
pluck very often unless it's in the middle.
same. Really. I
Yeah.
haven't even been looking at the middle. Shit.
Mine's very fuzzy. I have a very fuzzy unibrow.
Now that I'm touching it, I do have fuzz there.
Yeah, now you're never gonna not see it. Sorry.
Well, I purposely don't look too close at my face, or
I
else I
know.
see like all my pores and I see like all the blemishes.
I
Like I
know.
got
I'm
age
with you.
spots over here, dude. Age spots.
What are age spots?
It's like something to do with like your skin.
No shit.
Yeah. I just know that you get them when you get older, and that's what I got.
I've started getting in the last couple
What?
years those red like spots.
Yeah.
Like they look
Hmm.
like blood spots, you know?
Like blood splatter.
What are those
It's
red
like a
things?
droplet. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's a
I've never
mystery and I'm
learned.
here thinking like my blood's trying to come out. Like
Hey,
it's
you know
trying to
who would
escape.
know? You know who would know?
Who?
One of our Patreon members, Bree. She worked in a dermatology clinic.
Let's
She
ask
could
her
probably, yeah. Hey, Bree,
if
tell
you're
us.
listening.
Yeah.
Let us know. What what's the deal with spots?
Yeah. Tell us about the spots. Like these age spots,
The
April's
red
red
speckle,
spots,
my blood splatter spots. And
blood
there's
splatter.
like I get skin tags like a freaking old lady.
Yeah. Hey, but you know
Eyeballs.
what?
What?
Welcome everybody to
Oh,
episode 37.
welcome to episode 37. This is gonna be a podcast.
In case you're expecting anything else.
Yeah. If you're here for not a podcast episode, then you have come to the wrong place.
Then we'd like to invite you to leave now because you
No,
have entered the
stay and
wrong place.
stay
Or
and
yeah, stay. Have a seat.
just
We welcome
experience.
strangers. Uh hold on, wait. We have some apologies to dish out.
Oh, let me start.
Okay, then I'll go next.
Okay. So we got a comment on our Instagram of our last episode 36, about the Stannis family tragedy, right?
Mhm.
Um, I just want to say, and I don't remember the follower that said it, but or just brought it to my attention, but I hope I didn't imply that like what the mom did was okay because she had mental illness. It's not okay. It's never okay. But
Right.
my point, I guess I should say, was like it is a tragedy all around. The mom's mental health, what she did in her mental psychosis. Not that it's okay, but it's a tragedy that it happened. Um, like,
Right.
and it's awful, and it's terrible, terrible for a mother or father to murder their children. It's awful and never
Yeah.
okay. I guess what I was trying to understand with that story was like, as a mom, being a mom is hard. And as, I don't deal with a mental illness in that level, and I can imagine how much harder that would make it. And so, yeah, it's never okay. It's never going to be like, I didn't want to imply that I thought it was an excuse, because there is no excuse for that type of violence towards anybody. So
Yeah.
I want to apologize if I implied that. uh
Yeah.
Definitely not.
It's hard. It's hard sometimes defining that line between having empathy and sympathy,
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes like our comments were um taken one way or the other.
Right.
And I hope it was more for empathy than sympathy, because
Right.
that's what it was. It's just like, dang, like you
How
wish you can go
awful.
back and help
Yeah.
or go back and change, but like what happened and there's really no
Mm-hmm.
excuse. It just
Yeah.
sucks.
And the whole thing is like they did everything they thought they could, and with what information they had, like she was
Hmm.
getting help, and her husband tried to get her like, help,
And
extra
who would
help.
have
And
ever thought that was going to happen?
yeah, he couldn't have expected that to happen, and like in such a brutal way either. Like it was
Yeah.
just a tragedy. Like it really all around is a horrible, horrible tragedy. And I hope we can just be more aware of mental illness and the effect it can have on families, either through parents or the children's mental illnesses. It's just know that people are dealing with shit, and like try to be empathetic and helpful in the best way you can. But yeah, that's more where we were
Yeah.
coming from, not that we thought it was an excuse by any means. So
Right. Exactly. Well said. Good job. My turn.
okay.
Um, what was my apology for? Oh, okay. So our parents are LDS, actively LDS, and we saw them the Sunday after, I think it was, that the episode aired, or the day that it aired. I don't remember.
I was like, oh,
When
what
did we go over
happened?
there?
I was there.
I don't remember. Anyway, it came out, and so it was just on my mind, and it was a very Mormon heavy topic. So I was like, hey, Dad and Mom, isn't this interesting? So I just like blabbed, and we
But she
talked
didn't
back
bring
and
her
forth.
PowerPoint though.
Yeah, I didn't bring my PowerPoint. So I guess the correction that I need to make is that if you were watching the video portion of the episode, on one of the slides, I said that the pictures that I chose were of an endowment room, and it turns out those are actually the sealing rooms. Is that right,
Yeah.
April?
I mean, you couldn't have known. We've never been in the temple.
So
Right.
that was the correction I was given. So if there's any other corrections, let me know and I'll air that out. But sorry if that upset anybody. I don't
If
know.
that's the thing that upset you over all the other things that we're talking about, then like
Right.
way to be selectively offended.
Right.
Guess what? Today is the 10-year anniversary of me adopting Cooper.
Is it really?
Yes.
Aww.
Oh my gosh. I saw my memories and I was like,
I
oh
remember
my,
that day.
the best day of my life. Just kidding.
Your firstborn.
My firstborn child birthed in a puppy farm. Just kidding. That's horrible. I mean, but kind
But it
of.
was. What city? Let's out them.
Let's see.
I
It was
mean,
in
thank them for their.
Gunnison. Gunnison, I think. Gunnison, Utah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't condone puppy farms, but I was 19. I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
And I saw this puppy on KSL, and it was a cockapoo, and I'm like, I don't even know what that is, but he was so cute.
He
And
was so cute.
oh my gosh, his
He
face,
still
and
is.
he had oh my gosh, he had green eyes, and it was just the cutest freaking thing, and a stupid cute face. And I
What
had to
color
have
are
him
his eyes now?
brown, just normal
Oh,
dog brown eyes, but they
they
were,
changed?
I don't know, they're green. They were green.
Wow.
And
They
now
fooled you. They catfished you,
they
literally. They
catfished
probably
me.
put dog contacts
They
in.
put like dye in his eyeball.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my gosh, so cute though. I just want to show you my favorite picture of him because it's just the sweetest
Oh, I should.
thing.
Oh,
And he
he's
has green
so
eyes. He's just
cute.
the cutest freaking thing I've ever seen.
He
And he
is
still
so
has those
cute.
light brown eyebrows, and I love
You
it.
should go get him and show us what he looks like now.
Okay, I'll go get him. He's so
Aww.
good. Here he is, everybody.
It's Cooper.
It's Cooper.
Oh, look at him. He's so cute.
He's so
Billy's
cute.
getting jealous that I'm talking to some other dog.
Lay down.
Billy's like, I'm cute too.
Oh,
See?
Billy, look at him. Billy. Can you hear me?
Oh, no.
Oh, what a
He's so
sweet
cute.
dog. And then this is Gumby.
Look at his face.
He is really jealous I didn't ask him to come up and on my lap.
He's like, aren't you gonna introduce me?
He's big. Oh, but I gotta tell a story. This whole thing is gonna be so stupid. Okay. Well, I have a short story, so we can just fill it up with nonsense.
Yeah.
So Saturday, I freaking spent my entire day. I was like, you know what? I have an itch in my butt and I'm going to do something today. So we refinished our basement in the summer, right? But we skipped
yeah.
the hallway. The hallway was just full of like construction stuff, like our leftover things from our flooring, our like just random shit. So I was gonna finish the hallway and I was like, I'm going to do this. And Josh wasn't feeling great. He had like a cough. So he was man sick. He had a man cold. And he's like, I don't want to do anything today. And I was like, well, I have like all this energy and I need to like do something productive that's not cleaning. So let's do something else.
Right.
So I tore apart my hallway and then I started laying down the flooring because I kind of figured out how to do it with Josh when we did our main room, right? So I started laying it down. I used our power tools like the table saw and the chop saw, and I freaking cut the shit out of those things and I laid them down in the right way, all measured up. And then I was like, I'm so proud of myself. I like freaking had 700 calories burned from walking up and down those stupid stairs, and I worked hard and I did it by myself. Like I was so proud. And then the next morning, Josh goes to do laundry. As the washer is like draining, our drain, Josh is watching our drain in our laundry room just bubble up and keep flooding, and it keeps going up and it keeps going up. And so our laundry room and our hallway that I just freaking laid the flooring down floods. So I went to go buy a new dresser. So I spent 6 hours on an IKEA dresser and just felt my feelings because I was really upset that all the work I did had to be undone because Josh had to undo the flooring and he like dried them out, wiped them down, and sanitized them because the water that came up was like super gross. And then Josh's friend Adam came over and helped us like snake the pipes and everything. But so far, since we snaked it and stuff and cleaned everything up, it's working. But we haven't put back together the hallway yet. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna make Josh do it.
Yeah, damn.
I know.
That sucks.
I know. It does suck. So what sucks in your life? The snow, maybe.
I just feel like I've been aging, man. Like got bags under my eyes. I am insecure about my eyelashes. I have spots. Like the hell?
Yeah, man.
That's all.
30's sneaking up on you.
It is. I feel it. I feel
Yeah, I feel
it.
it too.
I'm not even you're closer than I am.
I know. That's why I got fake eyelashes. Uh that's why I don't know, there's spots on me too, but they're bloody looking. So that's
So
why I'm
funny.
never naked. It's not on my
Like I
face.
don't want someone to think I walked out of a crime scene. Yeah, I want to hear your story.
Okay. So this is a short story, but an important story.
Okay.
So Elizabeth Salgado was born in Mexico on November 6, 1988. I couldn't find too much about her childhood growing up, but she grew up in Mexico and she ended up serving an LDS mission in Mexico. So she was a member of the LDS Church and served a mission. After serving her mission, she believed that Utah was the greatest place and the safest place on earth, because it's Zion, you know?
Right.
So in March 2015, at 27 years old, Elizabeth moved to Provo on a scholarship to begin learning English at Nomen Global Language Center. While she was going to school, she ended up getting a job at a local Mexican restaurant because her, first language is Spanish. And so it was just easier that way for her to get a job that had kind of a mixture so she could get some like exposure to English speaking.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Like to find a job where you can practice, like
Right,
doing both.
and have both.
Yeah.
So her future was looking really bright and exciting for her. She was in the place she wanted to be. But about, I don't know, 18 days later, she was walking home from her class and she took the normal route. So the whole about 3 weeks that she had been in Utah so far, she had an apartment just down the street, maybe a mile and a half from her school. And she took the same route every single day. So she was already in that habit. And on April 16th, 2015, after class, as she was walking the mile and a half to her apartment, she texted her sister, who still lived in Mexico, and she, just like she did every day on her walk back home, she said, finished class, heading home. And then she texted her uncle, who lived in Orem, and said, may I get a ride to the store around 5 o'clock? And then her uncle responded, but Elizabeth never responded back.
Okay.
And that would be the last communication anyone would ever have with Elizabeth.
Oh no.
So Elizabeth is missing. She's gone. No one can find her. And where she had only been in Utah for 3 weeks, she has a very small surrounding of people, right?
Yeah. Right.
Lieutenant Brandon Post with the Provo PD quickly launched a search for Elizabeth, using not only police officers but also volunteers. In their initial investigation, it showed that there was no activity on her phone after that text from her uncle, and no activity on her bank records or her social media accounts. So she just was gone.
Yeah.
Volunteers and authorities searched the surrounding areas, and Elizabeth Smart, who had, we'll cover her another day. Elizabeth Smart and her dad held a press conference and joined the search for Elizabeth Salgado. No clues, evidence, or even a body was found with all those searches.
Jeez.
She
When was this?
literally,
What year?
2015.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's so scary when there's no trace and you know that there's like technology that should trace you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
you just kind of depend on that.
Yeah.
Like there's got to be cameras, there's got to be like, my phone will record where I'm going, but like if those two things aren't giving clues, then it's like who the hell
And
knows
it
what
was in
happened?
middle of the day on a main road. Like
Yeah.
if
Like
someone
what?
like someone should have saw something, you know what I mean? Like where did she
Right.
go? And like there was no phone pings from towers. There was like
Right.
Nothing. Done. Zero things.
That's so scary.
Yeah. So her family said Elizabeth felt like she was being watched previously before she went missing. She felt like she was being watched on her way to school and she could never tell who it was. She never saw anyone,
Mhm.
but she had a feeling she was being watched.
I was gonna ask that because she texted her sister and said, "I'm headed home." I was like, I wonder if she had a feeling, and
Like
that's why
felt
she
weird.
checked in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and said like, okay, like this is my checkpoint. Like
Yeah.
this is where I am. This is where I'm going, and
Mm-hmm.
like checking in, And I bet if she would have made it home, she would have sent another text saying, "Kate, I made it home."
Yeah.
And I feel like people like you might give more info, but like when you hear about these like stalker situations or like people feel like they've been watched, like or are being watched, like it's just interesting hearing these cases where like they do have like this like instinct,
Yeah.
to
And
like
you
watch
have
their
that
back.
instinct when someone's looking at you, even. Isn't that weird? I think
Yeah.
instinct is so weird. Like scientifically,
Yeah.
I don't understand it. But like
Right.
it's weird where you can feel someone watching you
Mm-hmm.
and like the hair on the back of your neck stands up and you're like on alert. It's so
Yeah.
strange to me that
Well, and
that's
it's like,
like
what's the science behind that?
I
It's
know,
like,
it's
how
freaking
can I
weird.
feel it?
But like yeah, it is interesting. Like you can tell when someone's watching you, and it is eerie that like for 3 weeks she's like something's weird. Like I can feel
Mhm.
someone following me, right?
Yeah.
Um, her uncle also mentioned that Elizabeth had told him at one point that there was a boy that was coming on strong to her, and she wasn't interested. He wanted to date her and was really like interested in her, and she was like kind of nervous and like she was a very shy and quiet personality. But and she wasn't interested in him, but he kept like coming back,
Pushing.
you know. Um, so and that was just kind of a point to like, okay, there is someone who was like making her uncomfortable. The authorities
Mm-hmm.
did find that guy and they cleared him. He had like an alibi and they don't believe he was a suspect. So at this point, they go to the person who she last had contact with, which was her uncle. Obviously her sister is in Mexico, so that's not even a possibility, but her uncle is
Mm-hmm.
in Orem, and so he becomes a suspect. And he ended up taking a polygraph test and like he passed the polygraph test, which we know isn't like exact science, but he was also very involved in like searching for her, which that's kind of that can be a red flag too, but it's like of
Mm-hmm.
course her uncle's gonna help.
Yeah.
um
It'd be weird if he didn't, you know?
yeah, it would be weirder if he didn't. Then like sometimes you'd say like the suspect would be like closely involved in the investigation or trying to insert themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, if the uncle didn't help, it would look bad. So it's like
Right.
which one would you go with, I guess?
Mm-hmm.
But he ended up being cleared. So they really don't have any suspects at this point. Sister or Elizabeth's sister, who's in Mexico, she actually
Mm-hmm.
got a scary phone call from an unknown man saying, quote, "This is how you're going to find her, dead, without her head, her legs, her hands." And then
Oh
he
my
claims that
gosh.
he has Elizabeth and that he wants $1 million for her to be returned to them.
That's
And
scary.
right, oh my gosh, so scary. And her sister immediately hit record on her phone and recorded the ransom call. And she responded saying, "I don't want to play games. You don't know how many tears we've shed for my sister. So if you have her, I want to hear her voice." Police were able to determine that this call was a hoax. Why people freaking do that is
What?
beyond me. And the person who made the call did not have Elizabeth. Um,
Oh my
I
gosh.
just don't understand the type of person that would call their family, like the type of people who like do death threats to people that like
Yeah.
are on social media, or the people who like tell them to go and kill themselves, and the people who go and like do fake ass ransom calls. Like, why?
Yeah.
What does that do for you? What good does that do? I don't
I
understand the reason anyone would ever do that.
I have no idea. That is
It's
so
insane.
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And like to think that her sister probably had like a glimmer of hope,
Right.
you know? Like she's
Yep.
alive. She's here. Like not here, but she's
Someone
alive.
has her and she's alive and
And there's
she's
a
like,
chance.
and we could save her with $1 million. Like, and you know, a family will do what they can to get that money,
Right.
you know?
And then to hear later, like, oh, it wasn't real. It's
No,
like
it was,
upsetting.
that's so heartbreaking. So the police weren't sure what to do next, and the investigation dried up. They had no leads and no new information to go off of. A few months after the case goes cold and volunteers stop showing up, and the Salgado family continue to hope for answers, but I mean, what can they do if the police are
Yeah.
like, oh, I mean, we'll let you know if we hear something, but I mean, the police can only do so much. And then like the family can't do much other than continue to look and look and look. After 3 years go by, on May 18th, 2018, in Hobble Creek Canyon, a hiker stumbled upon skeletal remains. The remains were in a sleep-like position in a shallow grave, and the remains were identified as Elizabeth Salgado.
Oh my gosh. How long later?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah. Yep.
That's so sad. Do we know like her cause of death?
No, it doesn't say the reason or the exact cause, like what happened to her.
Do we know like if she died? Like, do you know if she like was murdered right away or if it was like,
Right away.
hmm.
Like they believe that she was murdered when she was taken.
Oh,
Like the same day, maybe not exact same
mm-hmm.
time.
Hmm.
So clearly they didn't see like blunt force trauma or anything. So because it was skeletal remains, they probably couldn't really tell if it was like there was bruising around the neck or anything like that for like
Right.
strangulation or
Or you
something.
wouldn't be able to look at the organs or anything like that.
Right. And like so that tells me there's no like blunt force trauma and no like gunshot wound like to the
Mm-hmm.
bone at least, like no damage
Yeah.
to like in that way. So we don't know. So with more investigation, the coroner was able to confirm at least that Elizabeth fought off her attacker as two of her front teeth were missing.
Oh wow.
Um, but there's no specific cause of death that's been found so far.
That's crazy.
So they hired a private investigator, Jason Jensen, who we've heard of before.
Yeah.
He's affiliated with the Cold Case Coalition in Utah, and he works on a lot of cold cases. But
Yeah.
he did some investigating of the site where they found her body, and he went and found a penny at the crime scene, and he sent it in for DNA testing, and it came back positive for male DNA. Though
Hmm.
the investigators have been optimistic that the evidence was going to give them more answers, but it hasn't come back with anything conclusive that helps the case at least.
And that's so hard with pennies. I mean, they've been in everybody's pockets,
I know.
you know?
I know they have so much DNA on them. It's like, okay, I don't know if that's even like worth
Yeah.
exploring, but you never know. Like, what could it tell them? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, any lead is a lead, right?
Yeah.
Um, but he also believed at one point that the last text that was sent to the sister who lived in Mexico may not have actually been from her. The text was translated from Spanish to English, but again, it said finished class heading home. And the family doesn't believe that that was Elizabeth. It wasn't usually what she sounded like, or like
Okay.
texted like. She was a little bit more like affectionate and like, uh,
Like
not so
flowery with her
abrupt. Yeah,
words.
not so abrupt, like finished class heading home. It would be more like, this is how my day went type of thing. Like, oh my gosh, like this happened,
Yeah.
and different from the personality that they know. And the hard thing is you don't, only the family could really tell that, or the sister who like
Mm-hmm.
had talked to her every single day after school, like knew that it was off, right? And it
Yeah.
could have been
Well,
her mood was off,
yeah,
but I don't
that's
know.
true.
Jason Jensen built a small profile with the information that we know so far. He believes that the killer speaks Spanish, is either Caucasian or Hispanic, knew Elizabeth and could have been infatuated with her. And the killer could be within her small group of friends, either from church, school, in her apartment building, or at work. But she was a part of a young single adult ward, which we call YSA ward in Utah, and like a part of the church groups. And so she started to get to know people from there. And a lot of return missionaries likely know Spanish, could have had the ability to speak with her fluently in Spanish, would made her feel comfortable in that way. But maybe like if she turned them down, like something could have happened. Big
That's
egos are
so
dangerous.
scary and
So
sad.
I know.
Because you hope that you can just trust the people that are around you.
Right.
You hope that there aren't complete psychopaths around you,
And
even
you
if
never
they have a
know.
crush on you,
Right.
you know? Like you
Yep.
just hope that they aren't gonna do something like that. But like,
Right.
geez. Like
Well,
how do you know? How and at what point are you being just too paranoid?
I know. It's like I feel like you can never trust anybody, but it's like you can't not trust anybody because then you seem
Exactly.
like a weirdo. But so obviously the suspect list is small or non-existent because they've already, you know, cleared some people.
Hmm.
It's possible that someone picked her up while she was walking to her apartment and she got in freely, meaning she probably knew them, right? Whether it be through
Right.
YSA, they offered her a ride.
Yeah, because
Um,
in broad daylight, and there probably wasn't a struggle. I mean, there could
right.
have been. There could
And
have
no one
been. But
noticed. Yeah.
yeah, but likely it was someone she knew and just said, "Hey, do you want to hop in? I'll give you a ride home." And
Yeah.
then who knows?
Yep. And to which they could have just driven her to Hobble Creek against her will and attacked her. Um,
Right.
so cold. It's a cold case, almost 8 years later now, and obviously the Salgado family is frustrated that Elizabeth's murder has not been found.
Yeah.
Like, as you can imagine, they're feeling like if she was a white blonde girl, she would have been like it would have been all over the news. It would have
Hmm.
been like thousands and thousands of people searching. There would have been
Yeah.
like all hands on deck situation, and they didn't get that same um
Like why
consideration.
okay, just thinking about the Idaho murders, right?
Mhm.
Everybody knew about it. Everybody was checking their cameras
Mhm.
for anything. They weren't
Yep.
even told what to look for. They just said, look at your cameras and see if you see anything. Why can't that just be protocol when someone goes missing? Instantly say, okay, they went missing from this radius, we think around this time. If you have like there should be like a PSA announcement, like if you have a
Mhm.
camera, we want you to submit it to like this link or this whatever so that we
Right.
can go through it. Like you don't
Yeah.
even have to go through it. Send it to us though. Because
Yeah.
we need information. Like why is that not happening?
I think that
Oh,
it's becoming more popular the more that people have those porch cameras or
yeah. I
property
mean, I guess this was
cameras.
8 years ago, but
Yeah, I feel like it's way more popular within like the last 3 years, three or whatever years.
right.
And like it it's like a I don't know, I kind of feel like it's like a neighborhood watch type thing where
Hmm.
why not just off or ask for well, I'm sure they went and asked all they could, but someone
Yeah.
had to have seen something, you know?
Hmm.
Um, so a spokesperson for Utah County Sheriff's Office says the case is still open and they occasionally get leads, but nothing concrete. Um, Jensen, private investigator, eventually started to wonder if maybe it wasn't someone close to her at all, but a crime of opportunity, which if they've cleared everyone that could have been around her, that's likely the case. He
Yeah.
pointed out that there was construction going on for new apartment buildings along the path that Elizabeth walked every day. And authorities even got a tip from someone on the construction site that they believe maybe their coworkers could have been involved in something like that.
Oh.
But no information on if the authorities looked into that lead or if anything came of it. An update on KSL News just 3 days ago. Jason Jensen had believed that there may be so there was a young single adult LDS event that Elizabeth attended 4 days before she went missing at the Kelly Groves Park at the base of Hobble Creek Canyon. And
Okay.
apparently Elizabeth went to that activity, met some new people, and made plans for another picnic trip after school one day to go back there. And her body was found in Hobble Creek Canyon. So they're wondering or assuming that this is a break in the case where like the people who attended that young single adult ward activity 8 years ago could have maybe pictures where maybe she's in the background talking to somebody and making plans,
Yeah.
or like someone had been a part of a conversation where she had plans with someone or something, because they believe that it could be a possibility that she was going to go to that picnic after school with someone that she had just met at a young single adult activity and ended up being attacked. So she went
Like an
willingly.
ambush, like
Yeah.
thinking that it was a picnic and then ends up maybe, although wouldn't she, that's an idea because well, but the thing is though, is if she went willingly, wouldn't she have texted her sister and said, hey, I'm actually gonna go to a picnic with
Yeah,
a
you'd
friend?
think so, unless maybe he took her phone, like picked her up. She's in the car, or maybe he picked her up on like at the school before she even started the walk. So
Yeah.
maybe he picked her up at the school and then in the car overpowered her, grabbed her phone, and then made it seem like she was doing her normal thing. Like headed home. And then, tried to make it seem like it was her, or maybe he said, tell so or she said, I'm texting my sister and I'm going to tell her what's happening or something. And it's possible
That's
that
possible.
she could have been forced to send a text, or that they did it, right? But I'm with you. I would have assumed she would have been like, oh my gosh, I'm going on a date,
Yeah.
because that would be exciting for her, like she's
Right.
going on a
Right.
date with like a cute guy or whatever, and she's getting in with some friends, or maybe just
But
yeah.
that does sound like it could be a big break because, like, what if somebody who was there didn't even think about like the fact that there was an event in the same, like, sort of location as where she was found?
Right.
So that makes me think probably what Jesse is Jesse, right? Jesse Jensen,
Jason Jensen.
Jason, Jason Jensen. Um, I wonder if like his line of thinking is like, okay, well, like, why did they choose that location? It must have been a place that they go to often or have been to recently. So
Right.
that's probably what he's thinking. Like, the murderer could have easily been at that event.
Right.
And like, I know you probably have already said this. I'm just rewording it, I guess,
Yeah.
now that it's all clicking in my head. But it's
Yeah.
like that sounds like a big break. And okay, so what day would that have been?
April is 4 days. April 12th, 2015. Young single adult activity at the base of Hobble Creek Canyon, called the park was called Kelly Groves Park at the base of Hobble Creek Canyon. It was a picnic activity, April 12th, 2015. Anyone who may be possibly listening, if you were in the area and went to this activity and you noticed Elizabeth trying to mix in with some people, maybe you have pictures, they take pictures at those things, look through them. Just there has to be
Yes, you
something.
never know. You never know.
Like the background of pictures has a lot of information, so just look. If you know someone who could have been in that area at the time going to that ward activity, reach out to them and ask them and see if they know. Her poor mom. Like I feel so bad. You can just see the grief on her face, as you can imagine. But her mom has reached out to the Facebook group of that young single adult ward in Provo and asked for support in finding who may have done this to Elizabeth. I mean, I don't know if they've gotten any hits. It was only a few days ago, but someone must have seen something. Even if you don't think you saw something, just meditate. Like try to think of
Take yourself
anything.
back.
Or like if you know like a group of your friends went, maybe you guys can like talk to each other, and sometimes memories can like resurface.
Yeah.
The Salgado family deserves closure. So if you know anything, heard of anything that might be helpful to the case to find the killer of Elizabeth, you can contact the Provo Police Department, or you can contact their private investigator, Jason Jensen, at 801-596-2455. If you want to remain anonymous or keep it confidential, I mean, any information given to Jason Jensen is confidential. But you can submit a form on his website with any tips or information you might have at jensenprivateinvestigations.com/contact. He has a form you can fill out there. Also has his phone number there you can call. There's gotta be
awesome.
something. This poor girl was only in the US for freaking 18 days, and she was murdered in cold blood, and she was so excited. Like I feel so bad because she's like this sweet young like girl. I mean, she's 27, but she had so much life left, and she was just excited to be with the people she connected with over, religion and similar beliefs, and she just wanted to be a part of it, and she was murdered within 18 days. She was
she
only
had
here for
so much
18 days.
ambition.
Yes.
She had so much ambition and like
she was studying to be an engineer.
enthusiasm.
Like she was smart, and she was like excited to learn English, and she had served in Mexico and loved her family, and all the things that you're just like, there was no why like it makes me so sad. But
Well,
anyway,
every case is solvable.
yes,
Somebody
there's
knows
an
something.
answer. There's an answer,
and whoever
to
did it, they probably blabbed. They probably did, right? They probably told someone.
They had to have. Everyone slips.
Yeah.
It happens. They will
No
slip.
murderer is perfect.
Right.
So like,
and it's likely that they'll do it again.
So the guy that came onto her strong that they cleared, was he part of that group?
I don't know. It's weird because there's not a whole lot of information. I feel like Jason Jensen has more information. I would love to know if he had a podcast or something about these cold cases, but yeah, so let's just say it. April 12th, 2015, at the base of Cobble Creek Canyon, Kelly Groves Park. Pictures. Young single adult ward. We need them. Not me. Jason Jensen needs them.
Yep.
So 8 years since then. Okay. So like the people who were at this event, right? If they're young single adults, likely they were in their early 20s, right?
Yeah.
So the likelihood is that they're our age, basically. They're our age right now. And most of our listeners are in our age group. But the likelihood
like 40% of you.
The likelihood of them being freaking Mormon and listening to us is very slim. Especially after last episode. But maybe our listeners have friends who are in that crowd. So
yeah, maybe.
Please.
Or siblings. I think that with Jason's latest tip. I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
gonna open
gonna,
up a door, I think.
I think so, especially if people in that, and we'll like put something on our story or something so that you can share it,
Mm-hmm.
like share far and wide so that we can maybe get some answers from those who were at that activity, because I think that's gonna be a big, big piece.
Yep, I
So,
think so too.
anyways, that's my
Dang,
story.
that's a good one. I
It's
mean,
short, kind of, but also important,
yeah,
The cold
yeah, very
cases
important.
often are looked over for the bigger solved cases, because
Right.
everyone wants it tied up in a bow and done, and like,
Mm-hmm.
but there's so many cases that don't have any freaking answers, and it's heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things I hope that if there are other lives, I hope that in one of them I'm in law enforcement. And in another one, I hope I'm a therapist. And in another, but for
Maybe do
this
law
life,
enforcement and then therapy.
yeah. But in this life, I'm just gonna go ahead and be a lazy ass podcaster.
Ah, it's the good life. It's
Okay,
fine.
here's the thing, really quick. Okay, we only have 10 minutes. So like one for 5 seconds I want to talk to you about, like, it is, do you want to guess how much it is for a year subscription to Pro so we don't have to keep starting new things?
199
No. It is 150
for a year.
for a year.
Sorry, every 30 minutes we had to start a new meeting. But like nobody knows, right?
But like no one knows that we have to start. This takes us like 2 hours, 3 hours, sometimes 5 hours in most days.
Yeah. Uh,
uh
it's
so
just part of it though.
you're like, listen, we have been fine doing it the way that we're doing it because we don't want to spend the money. Do you want to know? I bet you anything we would save 30 minutes
Yeah,
at least if we just had
at
our meeting run
least.
straight through.
Eh, eh,
Right.
nah. I'm happy with our misery. So,
Okay. All right. Let's hear your story.
okay. So, this one I feel like is going to make us want to plan a wedding all over again. I'm covering one of the most haunted wedding venues in the United States.
Wedding venue that's haunted.
I'm covering the McCune Mansion
I don't know what
or
that is.
McCune. McCune.
Well, how do you
Well,
spell it?
it's located, oh, it's MCCUNE.
McCune, I guess.
McCune, yeah. It's located at 200 North Main Street in Salt Lake City, Utah. The mansion is within one of Salt Lake City's oldest neighborhoods called the Marmalade District, which sits right on Capitol Hill in Salt Lake City. And
Fancy.
so if you're familiar with the downtown area, you probably have a really good idea of where this is. I think it's just north of Temple Square. So towards the late 1800s, many of the elite in Utah built their homes along South Temple, and Alfred and Elizabeth McCune were amongst these elites, and they also lived on South Temple. Alfred McCune was one of Utah's first millionaires, and he worked as a railroad tycoon, which is just somebody who oversees the construction of a railroad.
Okay.
But let me just tell you a little bit more about who Alfred is, like his background and how he got to Utah. So Alfred was born June 11th, 1849 at Fort William in Calcutta, India. His father, Matthew McCune, was stationed there with his wife, Sarah, and they were members of the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church before they were converted to Mormonism while Matthew was still stationed in India. In 1854, Matthew was then posted to Burma, where he spent his spare time working as a Mormon missionary, and then eventually quit the British Army so that he could join Brigham Young and the Mormon pioneers into the New World. The family left for New York, And after traveling for 3 months, they arrived on March 3rd of 1857. This is really cute. When they arrived in New York, the family, it was their very first time ever seeing snow because it was March. And
Oh.
and Alfred,
Mhm.
he was quoted at only 7 years old. He said, "I had never seen snow before. I took it for salt, while my brother Ed thought it was sugar," which I thought
That's
was cute.
cute.
I'm like, I wonder how it would be like, back then, because it's not like they saw like pictures of snow
Right.
or anything. So to see it like coming out of the sky is like, what is this?
Like, what
So it's
is this?
interesting. Yeah.
It's so funny. I love that.
Um, they stayed in New York for a few months before beginning their journey by wagon across the country. When they finally made it to Utah, they settled in Nephi. And as a kid, Alfred found work on different farms around town. He helped with herding the sheep and raising the stock, and raising stock. Then, when he was 19, he started working for the Union Pacific Railroad.
Hmm.
At 21, he became really good at what he was doing in the railroad business. So he began climbing that ladder of success. And then later on, he also owned and managed a 6,000-acre horse and cattle ranch, as well as
Wow.
owned and managed a general store in Milford County or Milford
Wow.
City.
That's cool.
Yeah. So by now, Alfred had success and wealth on his side. So he was able to network with other well-known millionaires of the era. So he was good friends with J.P. Morgan, um, who is an investor specifically in the railroad industry. And
Hmm.
he was also friends with William Randolph Hearst, who was the biggest media and newspaper business, who owned the biggest media and newspaper business in the country.
That's cool.
Um, Alfred ended up marrying his childhood sweetheart, Elizabeth, in 1872.
Hmm.
And the story goes that they were on a trip when they spotted the mansion of John H. Matthews, who happened to be the inventor of soda water. Um, so in his mansion was in New York City, and when they saw his mansion, they immediately got inspired. They're like, we need this, like we want our house to be just like this.
Yeah.
Which by the way, I have a picture. I want to send you
Yeah, I want
of
to
like
see.
of his home and then of the McCune Mansion, just so you can see
Okay.
like the inspiration and what it ended up being. So I was like, wow, this is kind of cool.
Oh, that is pretty. That looks like the. Oh, I love that.
That is John H. Matthews. That's his home in New
That's
York
the
City
New
that they
York one.
drove by. Yep.
Okay.
So that's the one that they drove by and they're like, oh my gosh, we want that house. So this is what it ended up being.
Whoa. It's almost exactly.
I know, right?
Wow. Ooh. I feel like, the little like things that are on the like the little lips.
Uh-huh.
Those kind of remind me of like s- um Asian home roofs.
Yeah, which I'll get there.
Oh, okay.
It
Okay.
actually is inspired by a little bit of Asian architecture. So they looked at his house and they said, we want our future home to be just like that." And
Yeah.
they're millionaires at the time, right? So they're like,
We
you
can
know, put on
pull
the
it off.
tap.
Yeah.
um, so they wanted their home to stand out and to be something like no one has ever seen.
Hmm.
They wanted to just wow people. Elizabeth chose and hired a prominent architect who, fun fact, graduated from the University of Utah, named
Nice.
Samuel Clayton Dallas, and paid him to travel around Europe and the Americas for 2 years to study different styles and techniques. I know.
So they hold on. So they paid for
Yeah.
this guy to go and travel and look at different architecture just for it to be a literal copy of the one they wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, they did.
That is freaking stupid. You're
I'm
like,
glad you pointed that out, but
just
yeah.
go see what is out there. After 2 years, they're like, but we want this. Oh,
All right.
funny.
So she told him that she wanted a home that was elegant and fit for personal and professional use. After his traveling, he came back to the McCunes with a design that fused two styles together: Gothic revival and East Asian architecture.
Mm.
So it's like Gothic, Asian Gothic. It's
Hmm.
kind of cool, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so when they built the home, they spared no expense at all, like at all. Construction began in 1898, and by the time it was done in 1901, they had spent at least $1 million in materials, which
Yikes.
in conversion, do you want to guess how many millions of dollars that would be today?
10
More,
million. 20 million.
more.
What? 50 million.
Let me just tell you this. The cost would be equivalent to Elton John's mansion right now in Beverly Hills.
Oh, billions.
Not really.
Oh,
33 million.
33 million. What
Crazy,
the fuck?
huh?
How does 1 million and the 18 whatever's
It was finished in 1901.
1901.
Yeah.
Who has $1 million in 1901?
Railroad people, dude.
Shit. Why didn't we go
Yeah.
into that? Is it still people are people rich in
Is it too late?
Yeah. Can we join the railroad? Can we start from the bottom up? What do I do?
Not us desperate for money.
We're like $150 to make our lives like so much easier. I can't. We don't even have $150.
We cannot relate to this story
No.
whatsoever. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So, after it was built, it was quickly deemed one of the most expensive and extravagant homes built in Utah.
Wow.
The ground floor and the third floor, those are mainly used for entertaining guests and holding meetings. So I assume that the second floor is where all the bedrooms were.
Why would they?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But when walking through the door, you enter a foyer. And
Well,
I
yeah.
feel like I have to say it like that because if I say foyer,
It sounds so poor.
it sounds yeah, it sounds like the class that we actually belong in.
Yeah.
That's mansion talk.
It's like
Have you even been in a mansion?
no.
When walking through the door, you enter into the foyer. Foyer.
The entry room.
Once the entry room. Thank you, April. That's better. On one side, it led you into a large sitting room that was decorated in light colors and had floor to ceiling windows. It sounds to me like, remember how we had a formal room? It sounds like a formal room, like where you would like have like your neighbors come over and talk to you about like the pie they made or something. I don't know. I don't talk to my neighbors, so I don't know what you talk to them about.
It's like not. Tell me about.
I don't know.
Okay.
On the other side of the foyer, I'm probably saying that wrong.
Just say entry room because
Entry room. Okay, on the other side of the entry room, it led you into what used to be used as a smoking room, which I think is interesting because they're LDS. But then again, they were business people, so like they probably just had to accommodate for everybody.
But I bet they stretched the rules because they were rich.
Yeah. But it led you into this smoking room and it was decorated with darker colors and it had a fireplace on one side of the room and then a fancy stained glass window on the other side of the room. If you didn't go into either of those rooms, but you just kept walking forward, you would go into what's called the main hall, which puts any open floor concept to shame because it's just
like a big
super
ballroom thing.
not a ballroom, it's just like very immaculate and like very like just fancy.
Okay.
Because they do have a ballroom. And
Oh.
yeah. Um in the main hall there's another fireplace which happens to be made out of marble. And across from that fireplace is what they call the grand stairway that leads upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
And halfway up the stairs is a balcony that you can stand on to look over the room below you.
Wow.
And they had expensive materials shipped from all over the world. So not only is like the design and architecture on the outside and inside very like intricate and fancy, but even just the materials that they used were very high end.
Hmm.
Um, Materials like high quality wood, Nubian marble that was used for the fireplaces, and Irish marble that was used for their other furnishings around the mansion. They used onyx that was mined here in Utah. They used silk for the drapes and French tapestries on the walls. They used
Jeez.
mahogany shipped from South Africa and the Caribbean, 400-year-old oak, as well as like oak on like the staircases and stuff, as
Mm-hmm.
well as parts of the interior walls were decorated with Russian leather.
Why
They
would you
even had
want
a
a wall of leather?
I don't know. And it makes me think of like, you know how there's carpet on the walls in church?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they had like leather. Like just so like had like a different texture.
So you're like, this is fancy carpet walls.
Yeah. I have to like rub it with oil every once in a while.
Gross.
Yeah. Um Oh, they even had a large mirror shipped to them from Germany that they ended up having to put in the or that they ended up putting in the ballroom. And the mirror was so large that they had to build a special railroad car that could just hold the mirror to make sure it gets shipped in one piece.
Wow.
Crazy, huh?
That is insane.
And with his connections with the railroad companies and stuff, like he was able to make that happen. It's just crazy
Right.
that they did.
Right?
Um, Also, the material they used for the exterior of the house was made of native Utah sandstone, and the roof has tiles that were made in the Netherlands.
Jeez.
The
That like house
ballroom
came
is
from all around the world. My goodness.
yeah. So I wonder if that's what the architect really did is just go collect different materials, like not just get inspired, but to
Not
go
like
and
the
like
architecture, like of the look of it, but like the material to
mhm.
be the best of the best material.
Yeah,
I could see that. I'm like,
yeah. I think
what
that's
a
probably
waste of
more what
2
happened.
years.
Yeah, right. Um So the ballroom is said to be the most impressive room inside the mansion, which let me send you pictures of that real quick.
Whoa. That's the ballroom.
Yeah.
Fancy as
So,
shit. My
right.
goodness.
The walls are lined with large golden mirrors to make the place feel more open and spacious.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, from what I read, it took several months for the ballroom to be designed and for all to come together to be exactly how the McCunes wanted it. So you can see that
Wow.
it is a little bit more unique, like how there's that like center column and then the seats
Mm-hmm.
around it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, every detail is exactly the way they wanted it. So I think that's interesting.
Wow.
The room is very intricate and elegant, and it certainly shows that the McCunes were not modest with their wealth. The ceiling was even painted by a well known artist from New York named James W. Finn. Um, there's a stairway in the ballroom, which this is kind of a cool detail. There's a stairway in the ballroom that uh, has like a secret like room under the stairs,
Hmm.
and they call that the musician's well. And that's a room where the musicians could play, but nobody could see them. And how it's designed is that when they're playing music inside that little room, it echoes all throughout the house so that you can hear the music from all over. And I read, and this might be a rumor, so I don't know how true this is, but I read that there are secret passageways throughout the house. So I don't know, but I
Wow.
wonder if that's like how they made the sound travel is by putting those little
Yeah.
passageways and stuff through it.
Yeah. I wonder. That's crazy.
So today, the ballroom is where most wedding ceremonies happen. But back in the day, it was used by the McCunes for elegant parties and meetings. Even though the mansion has had several owners throughout the last century, it really hasn't changed much from its original construction.
Really?
Yeah. The McCune family lived in the mansion for 20 years. And when the children were all grown, Alfred and Elizabeth, they decided they wanted to downsize and move to Los Angeles. So they did in 1920.
Hmm.
Instead of selling the mansion, they decided they wanted to donate it to the LDS church. And Alfred even thought that it would serve as a really good home for the church, for the church president, who at the time was Heber J. Grant.
Hmm.
Um, but instead of Grant living there after it was donated, Grant decided to establish the McCune School of Music and Art, which took over the mansion until 1972.
Hmm.
Which I thought was kind of funny that he was literally gifted an entire mansion. I said, nah. It's did he have a better one? And what a slap in the face for if you were donate your
You're like, I want you to live here. And I mean, I guess you can't make someone live in your house.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
I just
not.
want to see if I'm curious what his house looks like.
And is it Heber J. Grant or Herbert?
Heber.
Okay, that's what I thought. The article that I read that in, it said Herbert, and I changed it to Heber because I'm pretty sure it's Heber. Then I never looked it up.
The house he lived in is pretty small. Huh. Maybe he was just modest and was like, no.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe he didn't want to work. He didn't want to live too close to work.
Yeah.
um. Okay, so Grant he established the McCune School of Music and Art, which took over the mansion until 1972. Other dance groups used the building for private rehearsals as well as occasional performances in the ballroom. Then the LDS Church sold the mansion to a community group who had planned to turn the place into a cultural center, but that for whatever reason never happened. And I couldn't figure out what that reason was.
Hmm.
But the mansion was pretty much vacant until a tornado ripped through the city on August 11th of 1999, which you don't hear about tornadoes in Utah.
Not very often, no.
That's kind of weird. But the tornado caused damage to the exterior of the building, and that worried a lot of people who wanted to see the building preserved. So that year, a businessman named Philip McCarthy purchased the mansion as well as renovated it to bring back its original look.
Hmm.
Because over time, as being a dance recital place, it might not have the same feel to it.
Yeah.
So he fixed it up, made it back to its original form, and now it's listed on the National Register of Historic Places.
Oh, cool.
And with the updates from the renovation, the mansion has become a really popular wedding venue, also really popular place for retreats and various business events. The McCune Mansion has bragging rights from several testimonies that the venue is the most spectacular and memorable wedding venue.
It's really pretty.
It is
I'd
really
love to
pretty.
see people's weddings there. What does it look like? How do they decorate it? Or do they leave it
Yeah,
as is?
right. Because honestly, it doesn't even need to be decorated. It's still
Right.
pretty.
Yeah.
A fun fact, in 2013, the Brides magazine put the McCune Mansion on their list of the top 50 most romantic wedding venues. There have been some deaths at the mansion, although it's hard to say how many because a lot of the articles that I read said that there has been no deaths in the mansion.
Hmm.
But I did stumble across somebody on the Utah Haunted History Facebook page. Someone had commented on a post about the mansion, and they said that this person's name is Heather C, and she said that her great great grandfather was a caretaker for the mansion, and he had died there at the age of 72 back in 1956. And she even posted a clipping of the newspaper article.
Hmm.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. Okay, so the ghosts. The McCune Mansion is, like I said before, is known as one of the most haunted wedding venues in the United States, mainly because the ghosts that are there, they don't mind to make themselves known. They like to
Hmm.
make themselves known. So they're very
Cool.
playful and a lot of people have experiences there.
That's cool. That makes, I feel like, ghost hunting more fun when they're not like
Yeah,
hiding and yeah.
right. And I was reading that, like, I don't remember which article or where I saw it, but like someone said that what's interesting or like fun about the ghosts that are there is that they don't seem to mind about who is there or what's
Mm-hmm.
happening. Like they'll show up whenever. So like they've shown up during weddings, they've shown up like during meetings, they've shown up
That's
just like
cool.
people, cleaning, at
Yeah,
night, or people like just driving by. Like it doesn't matter what's going on, they will show up on their time.
that's cool.
So yeah. So it sounds like it would be a really fun place to investigate, but they actually don't allow investigations, unfortunately. So there was a story I found on the Utah Haunted History Facebook page, and it was a comment that somebody wrote, and this person, their name is Justin P. And I'm just gonna read exactly what he wrote because I was gonna put it in my own words, but I'm like, it's just better if I read exactly what he wrote.
Okay.
So he says, one of the owners in the late 90s lost a lot of good employees who would work late at night, but then they would just leave without completing their work and never came back. It was being run as a wedding and banquet hall, but one night he was working late with his wife on the accounting. His wife went into the other room and they continued their conversation about the accounting issue they were having.
Mm-hmm.
They resolved it, and about 20 minutes later, she came back in the room. He mentioned to her that he was finished, and she asked about the issue, and he told her, "Well, we just resolved it when you were in the other room." She told him she has been upstairs the entire time. So he was talking to a ghost.
Oh
And
my
that's the
gosh.
story I heard from the owner. Isn't that
Whoa.
crazy?
That's cool. You're like, thankfully we have a great mathematician for a ghost.
Right. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, what a problem solver.
I know. Can they come do my taxes?
Yeah. Or just like, wouldn't it be nice to have a ghost just to like vent to, you know?
Yeah.
Like just shut up and listen. You just
Yeah.
like vent, and then all of a sudden you hear like a wow, that must be really hard for you. Just every once in a while. Like that'd be nice. Oh, should we tell them about our invention that we came up with? Or should
Yeah.
we just say that for the Patreon people?
I say we save that for like I don't know.
I
Who's
don't
gonna
know.
care?
Well, people are gonna care because it's a great idea.
It is a great idea, but someone's gonna steal it.
Okay, we're not gonna tell you. We're not telling you. We're gonna be on Shark Tank. Just watch.
But we just gotta find someone to actually make it.
Hmm. We
It's
need some
fine.
smart people. We have
Yeah.
an idea. We just need people to like complete it. So,
Yeah.
but we're not telling you because you're gonna steal it because you're probably smarter than us.
More than likely.
Anyway, right?
I swear our listeners are probably like these idiots.
Yeah, they're like, just shut up and tell us the story. Okay, where was I? Where was I? So a lot of people they claim to see the spirit of a young girl, and she's seen all over the house. And she seems to be like the most common ghost,
Oh, okay.
I would say. Hold on. She likes to move objects around, and she likes to make it obvious that she's been there and that she likes to make things really inconvenient for you. Like that's like her fun thing. It's
What a
like
little
I'm gonna move.
mischievous punk.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like she seems like she's just having the most fun.
Yeah.
Um, there was this one. There was this one story that I read where this bride was getting ready for her wedding, and she's at this desk thing like putting her makeup on, and she put her veil right next to her.
Mm-hmm.
She's putting her makeup on, and then she glances over and it's gone, and she's like, where the hell did my veil go? And everybody's looking, no one knows where it went, and finally they found it in a coat closet on the other side of the mansion.
What?
So they chalk that up to being the little girl.
Except, how did no one see a veil just floating around?
That's what I always want to know is like you
How
hear
did
the
they get it
stories
there?
about these objects moving. It's like somebody Somebody must have seen that. Like in
Yeah.
Harry Potter, like when the cake is floating over
Yeah.
like towards like the ant or whatever.
Yeah. Or all the effing candles in the sky.
Yeah, or that.
So
Like
that's
that's
just
the one thing. Like the one thing that comes to mind that floats in Harry Potter is the birthday or the cake.
literally every effing thing floats in Harry Potter.
Right.
Everyone's just floating around.
Right. Anyway, okay, let me get back to this story.
Oh,
Oh my god.
sorry.
Some people say that they've seen this little girl standing in the background of their wedding photos.
No
And most of
way.
the time when she's seen looking away from the camera, which is interesting.
Huh. That is weird.
Mhm.
Is there
Yeah.
evidence?
Oh, I don't have any of her. Well, I do have one picture I'm going to show you at the very end.
Okay.
But we don't know. I don't know. It's just something I found. It's the only apparition picture that I found that I'm like,
Well, don't you think if people have
there
them
might
in
be
her
more out
wedding
there.
photos, then you actually could see it in their wedding photos
Yeah.
if they'd share? Because who wouldn't?
But you know what? This is the only story I didn't make a post, my own post on the Utah Haunted History Facebook page because I was gonna do a different story and I put a post out there and I let it like, stew for a week and nobody really hadn't had any info. So it's like, okay, last minute switch. So then I would switch to this. And I was like, well, there's not really enough time to post because then I'm gonna get answers after we've already recorded. So
You could always post and just say, hey, does anyone have wedding photos from this place? I've heard that there are some with like a
oh, maybe on the
apparition.
Utah photographers group.
Oh, okay, do that.
Okay,
Do
I'm
both.
gonna.
And then see
Yeah.
if we get something by the time we post.
Okay. Cause yeah, like out of all the weddings that have been there has to be something, right?
Right.
Because I only heard it talked about and I didn't actually see anything.
You could always even
So
see if any photographers have experienced something.
yeah. Okay, I'll follow up.
Okay.
I'll follow up. Okay, so also there's a story about a time when the ghost of a little girl walked out of a mirror in the ballroom.
Holy shit, I freaking lose it. That's so scary.
So this story I found, let me show you the book. The story I found in this book that I bought at Walgreens like a
I've seen
year
it.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bought it like a year ago and it has a bunch, it's called Haunted Salt Lake City. And it's written by Laurie Allen, Cassie Ashton, Kristen Clay, and Nanette Watts. That's what it looks like.
Awesome.
If you
That's
can see it.
cool.
I like it. It's very storytelling-y. So if you like it to be more like, and then she said this, and then they looked at each other and said that. That's how
Oh.
that book goes. So it's not really informative. It's more like ghost stories
Oh,
in
okay.
Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
So this is a story that I pulled out of that book.
Okay.
So let's see. So our main character here is Rebecca, and
Okay.
she was hired by, and she's a wedding planner. She was hired by an engaged couple to do their wedding and everything, and they wanted the McCune Mansion to be their venue. So Rebecca made an appointment with the mansion's event coordinator to come to the venue on a day where a wedding would be held so that she can get a good look at what it looks like in the full getup and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I'm like, smart.
Yeah.
Such a smart idea. Rebecca shows up to the venue and it's being prepped for the wedding, and the event coordinator gives her a tour. During the tour, they suddenly heard someone scream from the ballroom. The event coordinator and Rebecca make their way toward the scream to see what's going on when they bumped into one of the mansion employees. She led them into the it wasn't the ballroom, it was the drawing room.
Oh,
Which
okay.
is that the ballroom? I'm not sure.
Maybe it's that one with the big windows.
Oh, maybe. Anyway, led her into that room where there's a large mirror.
Okay.
The employee said that she went into this room to get it ready for the wedding when she caught something on the corner of her eye. When she looked over, she saw a young girl in a white flowy dress walk out of the mirror and then disappear.
Oh my gosh.
In that same room, there's a large painting of young ballerinas in white dresses. And the employee swore up and down that who she saw walk out of that mirror was a little girl in that painting.
What?
And remember, it used to be a dance studio and stuff. So it's
Yeah.
likely that maybe somebody who just was like, I don't know, like their spirit just stays there for some reason. But isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so scary.
Um, there's another spirit in the mansion that many believe is the original owner himself, Alfred McCune. He is typically seen walking around the second story of the mansion near the grand staircase. He's best known for flickering the lights on and off, especially during Christmas time.
Hmm.
But I was also thinking, like, maybe that's just old wires, like not being able to handle all the electricity at once, like, might just
Yeah.
surge every once in a while.
Right.
So that's just what yeah, that's what I would think if I was like on ghost hunters.
I would assume the same.
Yeah. But who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know. Seeing the flickering lights is something that you might experience just by driving by. I read that some people have experienced that when they have driven by late at night and they have seen the lights from inside turning on and off on their own when there's no cars in the parking lot. Like it's completely
Wow.
empty. People have said that the doors will lock and unlock on their own. And remember when I mentioned the musician's well?
Yeah.
Like that little like secret room?
Yeah.
Many claim that sometimes out of nowhere you can hear classical music being like echoing through the halls when no one is playing music.
See, I think that's cool. Like
Mm-hmm.
that, I don't think that would scare me.
It depends.
I don't know why.
If it's like Phantom of the Opera kind of music, that might scare me.
But
Like
like
an
if
organ.
it was just like, yeah, I don't know. I guess I could see that.
Depends on the instrument.
Depends on the song. But
I feel like a saxophone would be kind of scary.
The accordion.
Not the accordion. Oh my gosh.
I thought we were just naming it.
No, I know what you said. That's terrifying. That would be the scariest instrument. I would say
I
the
think
piano.
singing would be horrible.
Yeah. Any kind of singing too. It doesn't even matter. Or whistling. Whistling is scary too.
Yeah, whistling would be scary. So
Right,
much.
I'm
Okay,
almost
sorry.
done.
Okay.
So yeah. Now where am I? Okay. I read a story. Where someone was standing on the front porch when they felt something pounding on the floor under their feet, like from up under their feet. And they said that when it was happening, they didn't hear anything, they only felt it.
So, like, that's kind of freaking scary. And it's concrete, right? So, how it's
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Well, and especially not hearing it, but feeling it. Like that's creepy because it's like you would hear it.
Yeah, you would. That's weird.
And lastly, on the Utah Haunted History Facebook page, I found a picture that someone named Michelle H shared and said that they took it while they were at the mansion. And they say that it appears that a little girl is seen looking through the window. So I'm just gonna send you. Actually, let me screen share because I don't know if I can share it. So these are just screenshots of what it was. So this is the person. They said I found the picture and this is what it is. Then you're like, okay, I don't see anything, right?
Yeah.
Can you see anything? That's the original picture.
I can kind of
Like this
Oh,
one right here.
yeah, I can see something, but I can't make out
Like
what it
an
is. Like it's
outline
off.
right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So then they lightened it. Because someone's like, I see curtains.
What do you think now? I did some editing and brightened it up.
For that. You
Looks
see like
like
a
a
face.
yeah. Not gonna lie, it looks like a pirate from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, it kind of does. Like the
Like
way
that's a hat.
that, yeah.
Yeah. That's what it looked like.
But anyway, this is
And they said it looked like a little girl. Is that what they said?
that's what they said.
Huh. I don't see a little girl. I see a pirate, but maybe that's just those things where it's just like what you interpret, you know?
Right, right.
That's
Yeah,
crazy. But there is a person figure there, though, for sure.
yeah.
That's cool.
Anyway, that's it. The end. So
I like it. That was a
yeah,
good one. I would,
that's a fun one, huh?
I do think that that mansion's like really pretty, but almost too
Mm-hmm.
gaudy for me. Like
Yeah.
for a wedding, like way too elaborate for my
Yeah.
style. Like
It's
it had to
very
have a
showy.
different. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but cool.
But you know, if that's your style though, then it's perfect. Like
Yeah. And there's like,
I would love to just be a guest for a wedding,
yeah, and
and
just
just
see
see what it's like.
how they like they you wouldn't need to do anything because it's already so extravagant, you
Pretty.
know?
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But it kind of
So
sucks they don't allow like is it still owned by the LDS Church?
no, it's owned by
The
McCarthy.
historical. Oh,
McCarthy. Hold on. Let me go
it's
back in my
a
remember.
historical landmark though, right?
Yes, because he did the renovations, and since then um it's been on the National Register of Historic Places.
Oh, right.
Philip
Okay.
McCarthy.
Philip McCarthy. Okay.
He's a
So,
local businessman.
well, that's too bad. He's probably pretty traditional and is like ghosts are stupid, but
Yeah, probably. Or he probably just doesn't want people like trying to break in
like
and
messing around with
vandalize
it.
it.
Yeah.
Because with
Especially because it's a very
yeah,
expensive place. So
mhm,
you wouldn't want
right,
just any old hooligans in there.
right. Yeah, maybe I could like email the owners or whoever and be like, can you guys send pictures if anybody has sent them to you? Can you send them to
Yeah.
me? Because I wonder if they have gotten pictures like of people saying, hey, look what we found.
Yeah. And we could always do an addendum like in another
Hmm.
episode and be like, we got this new information.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
do you think we could do an outro in 2 minutes?
yeah.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
thanks for listening.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to episode 37. Sorry that episode 36 was so bad, but episode 37 was better, right? Right?
Right.
Right?
I don't think that it was that bad.
I had so much anxiety about it after, but we only had 2 minutes. I just so shut up.
If we have listeners who are listening to this outro right now, if you haven't skipped the outro, can you just tell us, just tell us, send us a message on Instagram and say bad episode.
Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Yeah,
Like where
that's
are
all
you
we
at?
need. Just say 36 equals thumbs up or 36 equals thumbs down. That's
Survey.
what we need. We need a survey of episode 36 and only for those who have listened to this episode. We're not going to
Right.
make a story on Instagram about it. We just need you listening right now to just send us a message right now as you're listening. 36 equals. And 36 is the last episode, not this episode. We don't care if you like this episode.
Oh my gosh, you just took up like half our time. Uh okay. You guys
Okay.
can't see it, but we have a timer that's like counting down until this meeting ends.
Because we're too poor to
Okay.
pay for
1 minute.
Zoom Pro.
Right.
Okay. Thanks for listening and come back next time. Oh,
Hold on. Join our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/hot and cold. Follow us on social media. Instagram, TikTok, all those. And
Okay, bye.
okay, bye. Wow. See, look, we have
We
time
did
to
it.
spare. Just vacationing in this extra time.
It feels so nice and breezy. This is a long minute though.
Holy shit. They really are stretching it.
Yeah.
They're like 5, 4,
Four.
3.